All the roads are windy.
Welcome to the show, Jenner. It's so awesome to have you on the show and share your amazing spirit and generosity with our people. Welcome.
This is total dream come true for me, y'all.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love this so much. I've pretty much been telling everyone in my life that I'm like, finally get to be on your show. I've been listening to since Dream Beauty Freedom, like way back. And yeah, as we get into it, I could share about the name of my membership, The Wild Ones, was actually channeled through a podcast that you did with Becca Piastrelli. So we can talk about that later. But so anyway, this is divine timing. This is perfect. Incredibly happy to be here.
That's so cool. And I love that because you, me, and Becca are all people who are so focused on community, connection, gathering. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I got chills when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Very cool. Well, if you're willing, do you want to share where do your ancestors come from? What's your lineage? Or lineages?
Right. Many lineages. I am English, Irish, Scottish. So I have that whole island taken care of. French, Danish, Finnish, and I found out where my first grandmother was. You know, you can go down the lineages to find, there's like 8 grandmothers and everybody is, you know, connected to one of them. And she was in Italy. So I have a little bit in Italy. And even when I did my DNA, it was in Italy. There was just a tot in Italy, which I thought was crazy because there's no Italian in my family that I know of, right? Like a couple generations back. So yeah, I'm digging that. Yeah.
Pretty cool. I mean, Italy's amazing. And, you know, I feel like I'm a very similar Northern European mutt like you. And I bet our ancestors at some point crossed paths or, you know, like I'm all the same except for Italy.
I love that. Well, Bohemia. I forgot about that. And specifically Bohemia before it became Czechoslovakia. And yeah, the lineage then. So I have a lot of witch ancestors, as we do, right? As many of us do. So there's a lot of lineage there. And yeah, I'm all over and I love it. I love all the pieces and I love learning about the rituals and the culture and who we were as people. And it's, yeah, amazing.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. And where in the world are you now? And who are the people of that land?
Yeah, I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is Native Sioux land. There's so much rich Native culture here, and it's incredible. It's really incredible. There's a lot of ancestors that are still here and teaching the ways of the land that they were in the past and teaching the languages. And we started changing over some of the names of like lakes and things like that to go back to the native names. And yeah, it just gives me chills. It makes me so happy that we are Minneapolis is one of those gems that people don't really get how cool it is up here. Which is fine. You can come. It's cold as heck, but you can come. But we have beautiful people up here that give deep respect to this land and the people that were here before us. So it's powerful.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Super cold. Very cool.
Yeah. Super cold.
Wow. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey, just becoming the magical person you are. I guess like taking off the layers that were hiding your magic. Can you just give us a little snapshot of where has your life been? Like, have you ever been a quote sort of normal or tried to follow that mainstream pathway? And when did your magic emerge?
Man, there's so many layers. If y'all know anything about human design, I'm a 3/6 projector, which means the first years of my life, I like played and fucked up a lot. Did a lot of crazy, wild things that I will still not say on camera to this day. Like that, right? Yeah. Intense. And then the next, couple 20 years or so, then it's all about the work that I've been doing now. It's like all of this and like connecting with myself and understanding who I am and why I'm here and all of that. And then I'm 46. So I'm almost hitting the stage which shifts to 60, where I kind of come down off my roof of learning, they call it, and I come out into the world and I connect and share, which I'm actually already doing, but I can see it going to be happening in a bigger way. So yeah, I don't know if I was ever normal. I went to art school. I went to film school when I was a kid, did that, and loved it, had so much fun doing that. And I found a career working at NBC, and I found myself in the news department and never really thought I would be there, but it was kind of cool because you'd go to the, meet people and they'd be like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work for NBC. And then, they're like, oh, do you know this person? I'm like, yeah, I know them. It was just like, oh, I'm so cool, kind of thing. But it was actually the most depressing time of my life. I mean, I was inundated with news and I did the graphics for them. So I was doing, actually at the time there was the Red Lake shootings, which is a Native reservation here in northern Minnesota. And it wasn't too long after Columbine had happened. And it was awful. I'm like, have, graphics up of these shooters and these kids and it was just, I can't handle that shit. It was intense. But I didn't know any of that then, right? Like I had no clue. I just knew I was incredibly depressed. I knew I wanted to get out of Minnesota again. I kind of keep coming back. And I ended up selling all my stuff and moving to San Diego and just living out there for a while. And that's where I had, which I talk about all the time, which is my bathroom floor moment. That moment when I was like literally laying on a probably pretty gross bathroom floor. I mean, do they ever really get clean? I don't know. But laying on the cold tile and just crying and wondering, how did I get here? Who am I? What is the purpose of all of this anyway? Like really, I feel like I'm trying and putting myself out there in every possible way that I can, but nothing is coming back. The career isn't. I had just gotten broken up with, so I was dealing with heartbreak of the person I thought was going to be my forever. And it was just like everything was crumbling down. And yeah, I needed a big breakthrough. I needed a big transformation to happen. And luckily it did. And my sister introduced me to some self-development work. And it was a weekend in San Diego. They're like, come do it. I fully thought it was a cult. Literally did. But I also was just like, well, here we go. Like they were too happy, right? Everyone was happy. And, we've been to those before. And you're like, what's wrong with you people? Although in general, I'm a pretty positive person. So I was like, okay, I understand it a little bit, but this still feels really weird. And after that weekend, it just blew the lid off my life because I learned, as many of us have learned on this journey, that I have actually been programmed for most of my life, our younger years, 0 to about 7. We don't even have a logical part of our brain to discern what's actually happening around us. Like we can't see that our parents are fighting about money. We see that our parents are fighting about us. Like, everything is about us, right? At that age, if you ever met a 2-3-year-old, right? It's all about them. Well, that was us. And we're just like this computer and we're getting fully programmed with life. This is what love is. This is what money is. This is what my worth is. This is what life is all about. And then we just carry that through our life and we continually seek out circumstances, even if we had a shit childhood and it was really hard and really sad and awful, our nervous system, as Natalie knows and talks about a ton, still feels comfortable there. We still feel really comfortable in that space. So we find people that are like our parents and the people that raised us and our siblings and our community and their thoughts and their beliefs until we start doing this work. And that's what happened to me in that weekend where I was like, oh, I actually can choose. I can actually make this look different, but I needed awareness around it before I could do anything. And that's just when everything happened.
Wow.
There's so much.
Yeah, I love it. And I feel you, like that bathroom floor moment. I feel like, and then when people are so, you're like, why are they so happy? There's got to be something wrong. This is a cult. I'm like, yeah, don't they, like, haven't they touched the extreme darkness of life, the infinite sadness? Like, how can they be smiling? And like, I know that feeling all too well. All too well. Right. Yeah. I guess there are some people out there who haven't experienced trauma. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, or don't think that they have yet.
Or are just so, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation to have about that, but that's something that I was literally thinking about last night. I was like, who are these people who just don't see the immense, like, who don't walk side by side with the darkness? You know, it's not like it's always there, but it's never not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
And there's something beautiful about it too. It's not like it's something to shy away from or to push away. You know, when I started my journey, that was when The Secret came out, right? And everyone was trying to manifest their dream board and their lovers and their massive houses and all of the things. And wow, has that world changed? Like, it is just, I've seen the full-on shift of it. And now it's about shadow integration. Now it's about actually honoring it when we are upset and fearful and sad and depressed and grieving and all, like, just freaking do it. Like, get into that, because when we do, that's when the release happens. That's when our full self is expressed, our full self is realized, instead of taking this piece and going, well, this fear doesn't really work for my positivity and my light and love, so I'm going to put the fear over here. Well, that fear is still there. It's still creating damage in your life. It's still creating things that you don't want and you don't like. So when we face it, it's like the fear's like, I don't need to be here anymore. Thank you for acknowledging me. I was just here to just show you something you haven't done before, or to show you what else is possible, or to show you that there's something else happening that maybe you didn't see. Like, it's just there for us, which is, I don't know, pretty cool.
The dark is there for you. Yes, I love that. And I think, you know, what you just said too is so why the, like, always so happy, shiny. I'm like, oh, that's so, like, I'm a very positive, happy person, actually. I think that but it's only because I honor and acknowledge and interface with and integrate with that darkness, because that darkness is also it's like the full spectrum. And so when someone doesn't understand that or hasn't yet faced it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is really just some, all right, they don't know how to go to the depths. So yeah, I feel like we could probably talk about this for a long time. So we'll just kind of pocket that for now. But that bathroom floor moment and then that weekend, it just you said it blew the lid off your life. Like, that's, you know, your life changed. Can you give us a timeline of kind of like, okay, that happened, and when did you finally feel like this shift started to show up in your life and come back? Like, how, you know, having that awareness moment is very different from actually integrating that awareness into the way you live your life and experiencing the impacts and effects. And that's, to me, the, like, oh my God, I spent like 13 years there, you know, in like a vortex and spiral of just confusion and struggle. And so I don't know, could you just take us through a little bit of what was that integration like for you?
Yeah, I actually had some pretty immediate things happen. And then I had other things that kind of took a little while. So one thing that happened right away was I was I had smoked cigarettes for, I don't remember what it was, 13 years or 11 years at this time. And I had tried to quit every single year. Seriously, since I started, at least once a year. Be like, I gotta be done with this. And I try to quit, and it'd be like a month or two, and then I would start smoking again. I also like to drink a lot, because that was the way for me to connect with other people. That was a way where I could be in community and hang out, and we do this. This is what we do. You know, I worked at a restaurant, and that was a lot of what we did there. We did that in television. It's like, that's how you like connect with people. That's what I thought, right? That was my upbringing. That was my thinking. So those are two things that fell right off the table, like literally like that. Like, it was wild. And one day I was just like, I'm done. I'm just done. And I still like to drink, but I don't like, there's no like, you know, Jaeger shots and, you know, beer pongs and stuff like that. That went away with my 20s. But it's more of a responsible way. Like, I actually can say, oh yeah, I drink, you know, once in a while when it feels right for me. It's just a very different expression. And then cigarettes are just gone. I mean, yeah, don't touch them. It feels weird to me. So those were two things that really, which is still mind-boggling, like what happened. But the other big thing for me was in relationship with partners. And I had mentioned the man that broke my heart and left in my bathroom floor moment. And we had a 3-year on and off again relationship. And the incredible, interesting part of it is I never told him that I loved him, because I was too afraid he would leave me if he actually knew how I felt about him. So I withheld myself so much in that relationship. And you know what my biggest complaint of him was? Withholding himself.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a mirror, right? Like, what? He was so my mirror, but I had no idea what that meant at the time. You know, it was just like, heartbreak. It was all his fault. It was all him. Nothing to do with me. I didn't realize that, like, whoa, I'm not expressing myself. And I promised myself I'm never going to do that again. I am never going to not share myself, because, hello, I'm pretty freaking cool. And I have a lot of amazing heart and love to share with people. Like, it was just like, it was wild. So I met my husband. It was probably about 3 years on this journey. And I mean, deep in the journey, like programs and retreats and books and coaching. And like, I've just been doing all the things, because I love it. It's so much fun. It's like the new community. I don't have to go drink anymore. Now I have a new community where I can like show up and share myself and be supported by people that are amazing. And so I met my husband, and it was, I don't know, a month or two after we dated. And I was like, I love you. I love you. You're amazing. And of course he said it back, but I said it first, and it was like this full expression of my heart. And I really didn't care if he was going to say it back or if he was going to run. Like, it didn't matter, right? So that was a shift, a really big shift for me. And it really wasn't until...
Can I just interrupt here and say, how did that feel? That must have, like you said, it didn't... Oh, that just sounds amazing. Like, my heart is just like...
It was so freeing, Natalie. It was just like, I got me back. I got me. You know, I got Jenner. It was just like, I'm freaking Jenner. And I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's like, yeah, it was powerful. Really, really powerful.
Wow. Thanks. Yeah. Because when you said, I was just like, wow, that's a huge moment. That's a huge, wow. Thanks for sharing. Okay. So you met him and you said, I love you, and he loved you back. And yes.
And then we rode off into the sunset in a carriage, and fireworks went all around us, and it's been amazing ever since. Not so much, but yeah, I mean, we've been married for 10 years now. Over 10 years. Yeah, over 10 years. We just had our 10 year, and whew, that man is totally and completely different than any person I've ever dated in my life, ever. Like, I never could have received how much love and support that man gives me on a daily if I hadn't done my own work. There's no way I could handle it. And even at first, I was kind of like, ooh, this is hard. This guy really loves me.
What was hard about it?
It was like somebody could see me. It was like they could see all the pieces of me, and they still just loved me fully, unconditionally, no matter what. Laughed at my jokes, enjoyed my weirdness, never called me weird all the time. That was actually my ex used to say that all the time, how weird I was. Or, he had some saying, and it always drove me nuts. I'm like, okay, but yeah, I'm also really cool. Like, just getting all of that of me. It's hard to be seen in that way, right? I hadn't been seen in that way before. I hadn't been seen by anyone, my family, friends, people, not in that way.
Okay. And so had you seen this part of yourself before, or was that what kind of emerged from doing this work after your bathroom floor moment?
It was definitely from doing this work. Like, I didn't even know who I was. Like I said, I was covering myself up with the drinking so that I could hang out with people and have community around me. It was like I needed to have a beer in my hand to be able to kind of do that. So I always think before we actually start doing this internal work, we're kind of like zombies walking through with just our programming, and just, it feels blind. I always like to do this with the glasses, where I always think about this. It's like we're literally, if you put some glasses on and you start looking through these glasses, everything kind of looks different, right? But then the more and more you wear the glasses, or you wear the contacts, or whatever it is, even if they had like a rose color over them or a yellow tint, right? You would just see yellow tint right away. But the more and more that you wear them, it's just normal. That's life. And now you just see life with this yellow tint, and you don't even know that you are. And when I did the weekend, and when I started doing all of the work, it was literally like I took the glasses off, and I was able to see, but I was able to see myself for the first time. Whew. That was incredible. It was incredible. I didn't even see her. I didn't even know she was there. Just kind of thought she was like everyone else, doing the same things, going to college, falling in love, saving money, doing what we're supposed to do to live the life, right? Yeah. So that was, yeah.
I love that. I call that a can't unsee. Like, you can't unsee that. Oh, you can try, but good luck.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what was it that you, like, who was it in yourself that you saw? Like, you thought you were just like everyone else, but what was actually so different that you saw?
Well, I really saw my heart and how much I loved. Like, I freaking love you. Like, I love people ridiculously. Like, I'm kind of one of those people that gets a little adverse when we say we have to put up boundaries, because I'm like, no, we need to connect. We need to take down our walls. We need to like take the bricks away from our heart and open it up and know that we can trust that we can trust our heart. We can trust our intuition. We can trust our inner knowing and be with each other, like really freaking be with each other. I mean, of course, boundaries are important when there's stuff, right? Like, I get it, but I have this aversion to it as well, where I'm like, I want people to be open and expressed and share themselves in powerful ways that it doesn't even matter what happens over there. Like with my husband, right? Like being able to just share myself. I really saw that love and how powerful she was and how much she had gotten hurt through so many different relationships, through so many different careers, through so many different heartbreaks and failures and losses and all of the things, and how that made sense that I didn't want to share myself anymore. It made sense that I didn't want to tell someone that I loved them with all my heart, because it was going to hurt again and again and again. So it wasn't until I was able to really see that in myself, like, this is a part of my purpose, is to be able to share my heart. That's literally piece of my purpose, is to share that with people. And people that are in my community and the wild ones, they know that. They see that. They see that as I show up week to week and all the different events and all the different things we do. Because I get responses all the time from people like, whoa, Jenner, your heart and your sharing and what you create and what you're doing. It's like, holy crap. But it's because I've been able to go here. I've been able to connect with her, be with her, know her, understand her, love her, fear her, love her again. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing too, where our heart, your heart has so much, it's like this endless source of just life and giving and love. And yet our world doesn't have, it's like there's not always somewhere for it to land, or it's interesting to see that, how you can feel it. And yet because you can see that and you feel it, you also see the walls that block it. And you're like, wait, this wall doesn't have to be here, but it feels so real, like it does have to be there for people. And so that, I feel like, is not bulldozing through the walls, but you're like, okay, broadcasting, here's this heart who's attracted to this and who's willing and able to receive. And like, that's what I sort of see as you're talking about this. Does that, yeah. Do you want to add to that or share?
Right. Well, it's like a trust within ourselves. Like, I think sometimes when we put boundaries up, it could be for many reasons. There's many reasons why we put, and there's really healthy boundaries. And there's also ones where we put up where maybe we were triggered by somebody and it actually was something that we need to look at. But we're like, I'm putting a boundary up because you pissed me off. And now that's what it is. And I have to do that. And you're toxic and I can't see you anymore. And it's just like, now this person has just gone out of your life and you're like, WTF just happened. Like, all I did was say blah, blah, blah. But it was so triggering and so awful that now we're boundarying. So instead of like always having that be our go-to, I feel like it's so much more powerful to connect with ourselves, to connect and trust who we are and trust the people in our lives that we're connecting with are showing us things that maybe we need to see. It doesn't mean you have to be like besties with them. It doesn't mean you have to like hang out with them every day, but use it as a learning before we start putting up bricks and putting up walls and putting up boundaries. Like, let's connect more with this, within. Yeah.
Right. And, I will say, just thinking about this and thinking about my own experience, there's been times where it kind of ebbs and flows too, where sometimes like I've needed to put up a boundary so that I could hear myself. And then once I could, and that could take a long time, it could take a year, and it can be a really confusing, hard space. So your heart was like, whoa, I'm here. And you obviously saw a part of yourself that had been restricted and held back or hidden or suppressed. I don't know, maybe all these things, maybe none, maybe something different, but it wasn't out there. It wasn't in the world. It wasn't being channeled through you and out to share with others at that point until you saw that. So what was it like for you? Did you have a learning curve, or, did you have to navigate your own boundaries or other people's boundaries? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I would say it's definitely still a learning curve. There's still growth and learning in it. And I kind of mentioned before how I'm a projector. And as projectors in human design, we have a lot of wisdom to share with people that necessarily are not into hearing it.
Right. And for anyone who's not familiar with human design, projectors are like a type, kind of like Aquarius or Capricorn. It's kind of like the type. And then there's a strategy for how do different types interact with others. And a projector, as the type in human design, is meant to wait for the invitation. So I can see when you don't wait for the invitation, the classic projector thing is people are like, ugh, why are you like looking deep into my soul? Like, fuck off. I don't know if that's what you've experienced, but yeah.
Please stop looking deep into my soul. And as I keep, learning more about myself and who I am, I'm understanding more how penetrating my words can be for people. And I never really thought that as a kid, because without getting into my whole story, I have a family that is incredibly expressive, and I was a very shy kid. I never shared myself because I had a sister, or I still have a sister, who's 7 years older. So when I was born, she did all of the talking for me. So remember, these first 7 years of our lives, very informative. I thought I had nothing to say. I didn't think I knew any better. I thought she knew better, and my parents knew better, and everyone else. So I just didn't talk at all. I actually didn't even develop my speech until later in life. Yeah, it took me longer to.
How old?
I don't know. My sister told me that. She's like, you didn't start talking when everyone else would at that age. So I'm not sure exactly what it was.
That's funny because I have little sisters, and one of them didn't start talking because we just all talked for her too. She would be like, eh, and we're like, she wants that.
Yeah. And it's a common thing, right? Like that is an actual common thing. Like there's nothing wrong with it. There's no hate. It was just something about me to learn about myself and being able to express myself. So I never really thought of my words as penetrating. I never really thought that I had so much freaking wisdom to share with somebody. I thought I was just like seeing things that they would be interested in maybe knowing. They're not. They're not interested in knowing. I will tell you that. So I've had that happen where people will put up boundaries with me, and it's so sad because I'm like, but I'm not trying to be a butthole, or I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be anything. And I'm sorry, I will back out. You take your time.
Well, I mean, is that confusing for being able to trust yourself? Because you're like, okay, if this is what's showing up for me, and then it's like, it's not landing for people. How have you navigated that kind of discord?
I pause and take deep breaths, and I ask, do you want to know what I see? Do you want to hear what I have to say? Do you want me to say something about it, or do you want me just to hang out with you and just listen? Yeah, just really understanding what people need. So it's really interesting that I often end up being on the other side of the boundaries. But even when I talk about this, I also want to share, I think one of the reasons why, actually, I know one of the reasons why I'm really good about expressing myself in a way that it's just in the way that it comes out for me, it works for me, is because I do my practices every day. I have practices that I come back to, and I want to get here and say this because this is so incredibly important. It's never like go do the weekend course or go do the retreat or do the coaching or whatever the thing is and then be done. It's like we have to 100% have a devotional practice to ourselves, to what we're creating, to what's important to us. And I do that every day. Every day. I don't not do it. And I know that has a huge impact in how I show up in the world.
Right. I mean, I have my daily practices as well, and monthly practices and all kinds of things to help me stay in touch with that part of me that is alive and not just part of the machine. It's essential. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because, we've kind of gone from your bathroom floor moment and that life before that. And then, okay, now you see your heart. And now what are these practices doing for you? Like, why do you need them? Because in a perfect world, we wouldn't need them. But what is it that they're helping you do every day? Is it getting in touch with your heart? Is it like, what's happening?
Man, I think in a perfect world, we want them. Like, what are you talking about? I love them. But I do right away. The first thing, I have a routine that I do, and it mixes up every day. Like it always kind of shifts, but generally I'm doing some type of movement, whether it's yoga or walking or something like that, where I'm moving my body. I love doing this. I have this Kundalini yoga practice where I do a yogi shuffle and I do some sun salutations and I just like get moving in my body and my spine, which is really important. Working our vagus nerve, as we all know. So I do a lot of spine exercises. And then I also do meditation where I literally just sit in complete silence. It's probably my favorite part of everything, like just to sit in meditation and be in silence. And I have some different practices I'll do with it to kind of get deeper into it. But I do breath work. Like, for example, I love breath work. It's an active breath that I bring in through my heart and through my belly and out through my mouth. And that definitely helps with trauma and nervous system and just grounding. And it's my favorite. And then I also do morning pages. If anyone knows what morning pages are, yeah. Come on. Like, a lot of us have a hard time with the meditation. So for me, I like to write. So like if I do, if I decide to tap into my Akashic records or something like that, I always need to write. Like I'm not, my mind will go 1,000 places if I don't do the pen. But for some reason, my meditations, I can drop in. I don't know. Anyway, I love me.
I mean, you've been doing it for a long time too. And it really does. It's a practice that really does keep expanding and deepening and evolving.
And I think I used to do an hour of meditation every day. I don't do that as much. I do it some days. I'll just do an hour meditation. But I think you're right. It is really having that practice for so long. Like it's just easy for me to drop in. I just can immediately do it. And then, so the morning pages, for those that don't know, it's 3 pages, just writing continuously. You're brain dumping. I love working through things even where I'm like, I want to create, what am I going to do? Like for inside the community, we do an energetic reset. I think Natalie calls hers that as well. And I bring in different practices like generative trance and NLP and tapping, and just I love creating these alchemical practices for people to release the energy of the past and bring in what we're creating in the future. So I'll write in there, what should I do this month? What is this month going to be about? What should we talk about? And I just allow things to come through me. I figure out so much of my business in morning pages, y'all. You want the key to like creating an amazing business? Do morning pages. I seriously love them.
In that, I hear you also asking questions of yourself and spirit. And, and when you ask good questions, the universe is like, hey, here's some answers. But it's not always like they're talking to you. It's like things show up. And so I don't know if you experience that. Like, do you get the answers right there in your morning pages and just kind of channel that? Or do the answers show up through a conversation with someone? How does that happen?
A little bit of both, I feel like. Sometimes it's right there. And it's just the process of just writing out ideas or things that are just coming through. And other times it's just, I'm not really sure what to do about this, or how am I going to, make this happen? Or what are some insights about this? Or what if I could have this kind of life? How would I need to show up for myself? Or what's missing in my life that I need to add in so I get to have this? Or what do I need to work through right now? Or what's, like it's just all the time. And yes, oftentimes it'll just show up in life. Like you just let it be, right? Like let it just be there.
Okay, so how long have you been on this path since your bathroom floor moment and that weekend that blew the lid off your life? How long have you been on this path now?
Well, I was 29 and I'm 46 now. So that long.
Almost 20 years. That's cool. And
holy shit, did you just say that out loud? Whoa, I just that's mind blowing. Yeah, that's great.
For real. I mean,
you added that really fast. I'm like, it's 17. 20. Yeah. It is almost 20. It's wild.
It's wild. And, it's amazing how quickly it goes, but also how slow it can seem in the moment. And I don't know about you, but for me, going back to my post-breakdown, breakthrough, now integration moments, it took me forever to find my footing and actually become human in the world. I felt like it was an awful struggle for 13 plus years. And I don't think everyone has to struggle so hard. There's a lot of things that once I learned them, I'm like, wow, this would have been nice to know as a kid, or at least just as I was going into adulthood at some point, or even after my breakdown and breakthrough moment, like, it would have been nice to know these things before, and they would have shortened that learning curve. And that's part of my life that I've grieved that I won't get that back, but that also helps me live more in the moment now and in my truth now. Cause I'm like, you know what? I spent so much of my life there, but at the same time, I don't know. I know this fuels me to do the work I do. And I'm curious for you, what are some things that you wish you had found earlier? Or what do you think would have helped you not struggle so hard through it? I mean, there's going to always be some conflict, because this is an alchemical process of sorting through those things that we were told were true that aren't actually true, and finding that truth in ourselves, and then trusting that truth, and then bringing that truth out into our life. Like, that's a whole process. You can't escape that. But there's things that make it easier, right? So I don't know. Can you share a little bit about that? Like, probably some of your practices, but what else?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I feel really lucky that I had practices early on that, like I said, made some pretty massive shifts right away. So that was really powerful. For me, the one thing I wish I would have done sooner is create the community, the Wild Ones. I wish I would have done that a lot sooner. Like, I waited, I don't know. I guess I've been doing it for 4 years, maybe specifically the Wild Ones. So, I mean, I've been doing this journey for a long time, but it took me a long time to realize that I could actually be the one that's doing the sharing of the wisdom. Like, it just didn't occur to me before that. And that's one thing I really wish I would have seen or known about myself. And again, like you said, it's like, it kind of had to be this way and this process and this journey. I actually was speaking with my astrologer not that long ago. And he said, when you started the Wild Ones, you actually started your career, like where you're going to be in your career for the next 20 years. And I was like, man, if I would have known that when my 20s and my 30s, I may have shown up differently in different types of jobs and different types of things and doing different things that'll inform what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? Like,
why didn't you? What was it that took you so long? Was that idea there before then and you just didn't act on it? Or did that idea not show up until then?
It didn't show up until then. It just literally didn't occur to me. It didn't occur that was even something I could do. And it was actually, I mean, controversial enough or whatever it is, but it was when Trump got elected. And I was like, WTF is happening in the world? Like, many people were, not everybody, but many were like, what just happened? Like, this is insane. And I was like, so I'm doing all this work and I'm doing all these things. So what the heck is this even for anyway? And it was actually in one of my meditations. I was doing hour meditations at that time. And that's when it dropped in for me. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, immediately, it was something about empowering women and go do it. And I was like, no, that's not real. That's just another buzzword. And I'm not doing that. But the thing is it stuck with me for a week and it just kept coming back and coming back. And then the more and more it penetrated me, the more and more I was like, oh, well, why can't I do that? I have created so much in my life. I have had so much transformation. I am not even the same person that I was in my 20s, now in my 30s. Like this, I mean, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I share this with people? Why can't this be my expression to what's happening in the world? Why can't this be the thing that people need to hear and know and be a part of? So that's how that all happened.
Yeah. That's amazing. And, you talked about community, and you've had these little pockets of community with your various trainings or modalities or just people that you connect with. And just from knowing you and what we've talked about, it sounds like that has been a huge part of your journey. And I'm wondering if you see that happening for others, because I guess I'm going to interject a little more of my own story here, because I know for me, being that magical, weird person who felt like I do not even belong on this planet. And then finding other people who were suffering through that same feeling, but actually finding some way to be in the world and learning from them and having that modeled for me and just seeing the possibilities and having support and people who I didn't have to explain myself to or defend or whatever, justify or whatever. That was like, it dropped a whole layer of that weight and allowed more of myself to emerge. And it's an ongoing, it's still happening. It doesn't end, but that piece of that's for me, I know, a huge thing. And it sounds like that's something that's been a really big part of your journey. And I don't know if that's part of what you see happening in the way you bring people together or in the way you've been brought together with other people in other communities. But I'd love to hear you to speak to community in your own sense. How has that impacted you and your story and the people who you've impacted?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, community, man. This could be like a whole other podcast. We're like, I could go so many ways with this. But the one thing I will say is that, as you mentioned, I've done tons of trainings on my own and different things. I kind of was doing this one specific modality for quite a while, and it was a very masculine approach to doing things. And that's kind of what I knew on the beginning of my journey. And then once I started doing some yoga and getting into my body and realizing it was more than just the mind, it was actually body as well. And then there was other pieces. And then I started learning about astrology, and then I started learning about herbs, and I'm just like learning about all these different modalities and ways that we can connect and heal. And it was always funny to me because everyone had this like the key to life. One of them would always be the key to like we kind of have to put that in our copy. I don't really know, but like, I don't really get it, but it's always like
one key.
Yeah, then you will win. It's like, no, that's not real. Like, that's not real. But there is so many different amazing people and communities that are sharing all these different tools and all these different practices that are incredible, that could definitely support you on your journey. And maybe right now, Akashic Records feels really good. Or maybe right now you want to work with some specific herbs and you want to like put them in your tea every day and you want to talk to them and you want to hang out with them. And that's what you're doing right now. Or maybe you need to do some tapping, like maybe tapping is coming through and you're feeling like that makes more sense, or somatic practices or some yoga, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many other pockets. And that's what I found out. I had all these different communities of people that I would share myself with, and we all have the same values and ideas and, want to make a difference in the world and within ourselves. And I thought, well, why can't we just bring this all together? Like, why can't we all come together? And that's how the Wild Ones really got created. But a piece of that, I will say for me, has always been wanting to reach communities of people that don't necessarily live in New York or live in LA and have like they're in this conversation all the time with people, right? Like they're in their own little bubbles and having these conversations and eating the raw foods and doing all the things. Like we don't have that in the rest of the world. Like most of the world has a very different expression of life. And I can say this because I did live in San Diego for a while. So I know what the bubble feels like. And I've lived in Boulder and I know what that bubble feels like. So I know there's bubbles and I know what it feels like. And I thought, well, why can't we create that online so that people that are in the middle of some town that would never want to talk about being a witch or sharing your magic or talking to your higher self, or, like you don't find that in your community, that you can come to the Wild Ones and you will have that. And I've had so many people reach out and are just like, oh my gosh, I can finally share that. I can actually talk about that with people. I can actually express myself in a way that feels good. And I feel seen. There's other people that are talking about this, and I don't feel like such an outsider anymore. Like to me, that's just like full on body chills to feel like, yes, what you say is valid. What you know is valid. What you know is real. And there is a community that is here for you, that wants your woo and your crazy and your weird and your silly and your wild and your rebel and your heart and your soul and everything to shine as vividly as it does.
I love that. And, it's cool because even though our communities are very similar, there's a huge need for it. It's like, oh my gosh. And, it's not like, there's only like 10 people in the world who want this and you're tight. It's like, no, this is amazing. We need spaces for people to be able to come together, explore, connect, learn, share, grow with each other, witness, be witnessed. There's such a need for it that and I live in an amazing bubble, and I know a lot of people do live in amazing bubbles, but then there's a lot of people who don't. And I think this work is especially important for people who don't have that who can't connect with others in a local way and are just so alone in the world. That is an awful feeling. Humans need connection. We need community. We need to be with other people in a safe way, or a safer way that is towards the kind of safety that feels really nourishing and good, moving towards that. So this is really important work.
It is. And the other thing that's coming through for me right now, and I know this is important to you when you bring in people into your community, but you could head over to YouTube and find somebody on a certain subject and listen to them, but then you might end up a rabbit hole and then end up on somebody's email list that isn't really heart-centered. And you just kind of find this like path that maybe isn't so good, because there is a lot of people that do penetrate this world and it's not really healthy. And so for me, it's so important. I am the one that vets every single person that comes into the Wild Ones community. To me, I do my research. I make sure that they...
You mean like the presenters?
The presenters, yes.
Not every single member.
Yeah, not the members. Anyone can come. Anyone can definitely come in. And so, it's, the presenters, where I think that's a really important piece, because when you feel alone on this journey, we kind of just start following different people, and then it kind of becomes this one person that you're following, and everything they say we're like latching onto, and then it becomes this Piscean age bullshit that we were already in, and now we're in a different one. Now we're in Aquarian. Now there's many. Now we're all together, community. So it's a different expression. So that's why I love what we're creating in the Wild Ones, is because it is the voice of so many amazing people that you can trust, you can follow, you can hang out with, you can get support by. And I know you do the same in your community too.
Yeah. And I don't know if we've explicitly said what is the Wild Ones?
What is the Wild Ones? The Wild Ones is a community that I've created, and it's an open community to anybody. And it's essentially that, where every month we bring in different experts that share their amazing genius with the world. And so we do things like we love our astrology and human design and Akashic records and yoga and meditation and breath work and sound healing and working with herbs, and we have so many things. It really is all of the different expressions of things that we bring in. And I know I'm missing some. Shadow integration, that's a huge one that we love to do. And so every month we kick off the month for our members, and we do the energetic reset on the 3rd of every month. We have an astrologer that gives us we call it's archetypal astrology. So we're actually working with the archetype of each zodiac sign. So it's kind of done differently. Like, we're not just talking about the energy that month, but we're talking about you as an Aries, or you as a Pisces, or you as an Aquarian, and how that informs your birth chart, because we all have the zodiac in each area of our chart. So there's that piece. And then we also have open meditations. So every Sunday we do an open meditation. And this is where it comes back to that devotional practice, where we might have like a really crazy week or a lot of things coming on. So we essentially open up the space for an hour, and you can come in, you can listen to your own meditation, you can listen to one that we offer you, you can listen to some music, you can go do a workshop that you haven't done before. So we've got a library of workshops and practices and rituals, and over 200 now inside the Wild Ones library, which is just insane to me. And we're constantly growing that and growing it and growing it. And what else do? We actually have a We're doing Ayurvedic. We have an Ayurvedic practitioner that's coming in June, and we're going to hang out with her for a couple months and do Q&As. So anything that you have around food or ritual or connection with the earth, like Ayurvedic, I just love that practice so much. And she's a master at it. She's literally, that's what they call her because she's done so much training in it. And so she's coming in and she's going to answer any questions. And it's always evolving. Like we're always changing. We're going to do book club coming up and we're always doing different things. It really is a wild space where people can show up and just be themselves. And we keep it incredibly inexpensive. It's a $33 a month and you can come in and you can pop out when you feel like you're ready and you can come back. We have a lot of people that come back. I get emails all the time. I'm back. I'm so happy that I'm back. I think it's so sweet. So yeah, we just leave it as an open space for people to come and hang out. Most people stay.
Lovely. Lovely. And you have a free rewilding retreat. So people can sign up. This is coming up and people can sign up for it and get a taste of what it's like to hang out with the different people in the community and presenters. And I'll be presenting too on healing the heart of connection, which after this conversation I love because I didn't know your story about your heart. I'm like, oh, this is so perfect. So yeah, I'll be helping people understand like if they feel, if connection is even something that they want, but feels a little bit like scary, we'll be getting into that. So that's something really powerful and beautiful. And this is a free rewilding event. You want to tell us a little bit about that and where people can go to sign up?
Yeah, the Rewilding Online Retreat. This is our 4th year. It keeps growing. It started in 2020. It was my way of bringing people together when we were all inside. And it's really what launched the Wild Ones community and everything that we do now. Last year we had we had almost 8,000 people join us, which is just mind-boggling to me. And this year we have 3,000 people at this. We're over 3,000 now, but we still have a couple weeks out. So we'll definitely surpass that this year, which is just so wild and crazy to me. And I love it. But what it shows me is people are hungry for this work. People are so ready for this transformation that we have going on in the world and in ourselves. And that's what we're here for. And we really created, it's 11 days. It's totally free. Of course, you can upgrade and purchase the bundle if you want lifetime access and a whole bunch of other really yummy goodies. But you can also just show up and hang out for free. It starts on a Monday with an opening ceremony. We do a sound healing. It's a live, it's probably my favorite part of the retreat because I get to lead some amazing meditations. Like I was talking about the energetic reset. We'll do that. We'll do some different practices. We'll set our intentions for the retreat, what we're doing. The Ayurvedic practitioner that I shared with you, she's actually doing a rewilding smoothie for us this year. And she's doing one for Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. So no matter where you are, it'll be warm or it'll be cold. So that's really amazing. And so we'll all be having our smoothies every morning together as we would if we were in retreat, right? And then every day, everyone gets an email and it has 3 to 4 different workshops in it. And the workshops are really cool because there's actually practices in it. It's not just a ton of content. It's actually doing the meditation or doing the yoga or doing the breath work or doing the journaling. And you're doing it in that moment. And then we all head to the Facebook group, which is totally fire. It's so lit up during the retreat. It's literally my favorite place to be. And people are sharing what they're getting and they're doing their homework and they're sharing all their experiences. And this is what I learned. And this is what I know now. And this is what I understand. And it's wild. And at the very end, we close the container with another sound healing live event, just really creating that space for everybody to come back together and say, whoa, this is what happened in 11 days. And I think what I love about it, I love lots of things about it, but it's not everyone can obviously afford or has the time in their life to pack everything up and go to a retreat in a beautiful area, but we can create that space in our home. We can set up our altar and light a candle and put some incense around and, do some things that feel really good. And then we can watch our workshop and drink our smoothie and then connect with each other and then go back to life and then see how it shows up in life, right? Like as it does. And then we can come back the next day and do some more on repeat for 11 days. And personally, I think you can get so much from doing that because you're still living your life. You're noticing how it's, you're noticing where you're getting triggered. You're noticing where it comes up and it's not working. You're noticing all those things as you're learning and being guided more into yourself. So yeah, I love it.
Pretty rad. We'll put a link in the show notes for people to sign up. That's awesome. And dang, this was a really fun, beautiful conversation. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and inviting me to present on rewilding and just all the support too. People don't know this, but behind the scenes, you've been an amazing support and so generous to me and Shauna. And just, it's awesome. You do have an amazing heart. And I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for what you do. So is there anything else you want to share or say before we say goodbye?
This is so great. I'm so happy that I get to hang out with you and all of your community, and what you're creating is so incredibly inspiring. This is amazing. Don't ever stop. Don't ever stop sharing yourself in whichever way it's expressing. I just absolutely adore you and who you are and everything you share. It's just amazing. So thank you so much for having me here. I cannot wait to hang out with you and record a workshop for rewilding. This is everything for me. I love this. This is why I do what I do.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for listening. And thank you, Jenner. We'll connect again sometime and have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All the roads are windy.
Listen to over 200 free Earthspeak podcast episodes on your favorite podcast app and visit earthspeak.love to learn about our collective community and workshops.